Okay, so welcome to the free webinar series from People Unbox. This session is all around collaboration culture, and at People Unbox, it's our mission to make a difference, and that starts with how we work together. Collaboration isn't just something that happens overnight. It gets talked about a lot. High-performing teams need this, but it isn't organic. It needs to be thought about, and if we put our effort towards it, there's some gains to be had. Plus, for those that have been paying attention, this is Learning at Work Week. And one of the key themes within this week is about getting connected. So we felt that this was the perfect moment to reflect on how we can build stronger and more collaborative teams. Plus, this has been a real big request through 2025. So we thought we'd bring some of the ideas to our friends and partners within the industries that we're working in. So welcome everyone. My name is Richard Jennings. For those that haven't met me before, I'm the Director of Learning Experience at People Unbox, and it is my pleasure to host today's webinar. It's really nice to see some familiar names as well as some new ones. So you are all welcome and you all have a seat at my table. And for those that have just joined, please feel free to type in where you're calling from. We've already got Manchester, Newcastle, London represented in the UK, but equally we have got a lot of Middle East and North Africa countries represented. So Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Jordan, and that's what makes this so special. Learning at Work Week should be global, and it's great to see people on board from a global audience. How do we get the most from this session, I hear you ask? Well, four key tips for a great workshop. One, let's respect each other's opinions, okay? It'd be great if we can share in a chat, almost like imagine if we were together and we'd be chatting and sharing good ideas and practices. That's what I want to see in the chat. With that as well, it is a safe space to share ideas, to ask questions, and I will keep an eye on it as best as I can to answer. We will have a little bit of a Q&A at the end of the session. So keep any questions you want, note them down, and then I'm more than happy to answer them at the end. So safe space for you to do that. The next one is about getting stuck in. This one for me is really important. It's absolutely your choice to have this on in the background, do your emails, send your Teams message, write that report, get that proposal done, whatever it be. But you're only going to get a little bit of the information, if any of it. So I ask you this, prioritize your learning. Okay, prioritize your learning. Your future self, your future team will thank you for this session all around collaboration. So get stuck in, be present, avoid the distraction, prioritize your learning and your development, and together we can hopefully achieve a lot with the time that we have. And above all, I always feel we can have a little bit of fun along the way. Collaboration should be fun, and that's what I want to look at today. Okay, so respect each other, safe space, get stuck in, and let's have a bit of fun along the way. With that, I can see more people coming in, so welcome if you have just joined. And what are we covering? Well, I have got three key areas that we're going to look at. The first thing we're going to look at is a little bit of self-reflection. Okay, we're going to look at a little bit of self-reflection because often the blocker to a collaborative culture can be ourselves. So it starts with us. So we're going to have a bit of self-reflection using our space repetition app. BentoBot, so you can have free access to do a self-assessment on collaboration. That's to come. Then we're going to look at what can block us. We're going to look at what can block us in terms of what's in our mind, but equally, is there any other key blockers that stops us from wanting to create a collaborative culture? Then we're going to look how we go from that me versus the we mindset, creating proper collaboration and looking at some top tips before we get to the hour that we've got together and with a little bit of Q&A along the way. So do use the chat to interact, be present, come on the journey with me, and make sure you make and take notes of the things that you are going to commit to that's going to help you develop and hopefully aid, assist, create a collaborative culture. With that, what I'm going to need you to do is get your mobile telephone devices out because we are going to scan the QR code which is on the screen. Okay, this is going to give you free access to our space repetition app BentoBot, which is designed to give bite-sized bits of learning. But in particular, what this is going to do is it's going to start a free demo course and you're going to search and select collaboration self-assessment. In here, there's going to be 10 questions. And what I want you to do is I want you to answer these honestly. This is anonymous. I won't see your answers. This is just for you to self-reflect, okay? This is for you to take a moment and be honest and see where the opportunities lie. Whilst you're doing this assessment, feel free to make or take notes. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to improve because if we are going to create or a collaborative culture, we have to be self-aware. We have to know how we do that. And you'll see as you go through the self-assessment questions, these are all based on collaboration. Okay, I'm going to give you a moment of silence. If you cannot access the spaced repetition at Bento Bot through the QR code which is on the screen, you can use your phone to scan this. Fear not, because I will bring up the questions momentarily, but we just wanted to get you, it's learning at work, right? So we thought we'd try something different because I know not all of you have had the pleasure of accessing BentoBot yet. We feel it's a real game changer within the learning and development industry. And so we thought, you know what, let's give some free access to it as opposed to having to pay and be part of a bigger program for it. So here it is for you to have a go, have a look, have a feel. So learning through spaced repetition, but equally, this is more focused on a self-assessment. You can collate your answers, and by the time you've done the 10 questions, what it will give you is a percentage score of how collaborative you are. And hopefully, you'll be able to pick out a few opportunities for yourself. Let me know if there's any problems with the QR code. I will go back to the QR if you haven't already scanned it, which is on the screen now. But if not, here are the questions on the screen. If you can't access it, no worries. These are the 10 questions. You just won't be able to access BentoBot, but these are the 10 key questions. And how the BentoBot works is it's regularly, sometimes, rarely, never. And or quite simply, you could answer this yes or no if you haven't got BentoBot. And hopefully what we're going to find here is an opportunity for yourself already to go out and learn and develop and grow. So the questions. And don't worry about the score, Sadie. There's a worried emoji in the chat there for those that haven't seen it. What it's doing is it's giving us the power to understand where the opportunities lie. And I would suggest, if you can, I will send you the slide deck after today's session. I will send you that so you've got access to it so you can reflect on these questions and hey, maybe use it with your team. I'd love for you to do that as well. That's what learning is part of. It's about departing knowledge to others as well. There's some really good conversations that we've had in classrooms around these questions and some self-reflection moments within it. But what it's doing is it's hopefully highlighting opportunities to learn, not weaknesses. I don't like that word, opportunities to learn if we've got the right mindset to do so. So do you reach out to peers to ask for help, or are you someone that just thinks, I'll just do it myself? It's quicker, it's easier. I don't want to bother someone. Are you someone that asks peers for advice? That how would you do this? How would you do that? Or you the person that just thinks, I'll figure it out myself? It's really nice to see people sharing. Lorraine agreeing with Sadie that 60%. We've got a few 70, 75%. So do you know what? It's great if you're scoring high. Celebrate what you're doing well, absolutely, because that's important too. It's about looking for those opportunities. Do you ask your peers, your managers, your direct reports for feedback? Not just in appraisals, but do you take the opportunity to do it in a proactive way? Such as, look, hey, I'm going to deliver this presentation to the team and you're in the meeting. I'd really appreciate it if you could look at what I'm doing, what are my strengths, equally, what are my opportunities? I think I use a few ums and ahs. So if you could keep an eye out for that, that would be really useful and let me know at the end how I do. Do you share things that helped you to succeed with others, or do you keep it to yourself? And I had a really good conversation with someone in the classroom just on Monday about this. They said, I don't see the point in blowing my own trumpet and saying what I've done well. And I said, well, let's flip it through a different lens here. Do you not think it's sharing best practice as opposed to blowing your trumpet? And that completely changed their perception on actually, yeah, I'm holding on to good ideas. So that's where we can really collaborate as well. Do you spend benchmarking days with other members of the team? You know, do you go and watch what they're doing? some of the best learning, if we look at the 70-20-10% principle of learning, 70% is by doing, 20% is by learning from others or being with others. So do you go shoulder to shoulder wherever the opportunity is to see what they're doing, to hopefully help you find a more better way, more efficient way of working, and vice versa for them too? Are you open to new ideas from any member of your team, regardless of their seniority, regardless of their experience? Or do you go to your tried and tested person that you go to again and again? So are you open to new ideas from anyone in your team and also outside the team as well? Do you admit when you don't know the best way to do something? Or do you keep it to yourself? And I guess this links to psychological safety, doesn't it? And finally, do you actively encourage everyone to share opinions in team meetings? Or is there someone, yourself included, that maybe hogs the limelight, doesn't allow others to share, especially if they're not as well, not as open with their ideas, maybe a little bit more introverted. How do we get them out? And these are the sort of questions that we need to be asking ourselves if we want to try and create a more collaborative culture, but also to aid our development. And why we might not do some of this will come up in the next few slides. Feel free to save the link for the Bento bot for the free resource. I'm happy for you to share it with people who aren't on the call today. This is something we want to try and get people to feel and use, and I think it's a really good way of self-reflecting. And hopefully, some people have already in the short time we've had found an opportunity that you can focus on. And I'd always say go with quality over quantity. It's easy to focus on one thing and get it right rather than seven things and not do any of it. So make and take a note of any of these questions that you think, actually, yeah, that's something I should be doing. Maybe it's asking for more feedback. Maybe it's soliciting more opinions from across the team. Maybe it's actually putting your hand up and going, I don't know the best way to do this yet. Okay. With that, the next part that I want to look at is what can block us. And this is where I'm going to bring you in. I want you to share in the chat what blocks us from a team approach and keeps us working in silos. I'll repeat the question. So what blocks us from that team approach and keeps us either working individually or in silos? So share in the chat some ideas or some things that you've come across. I know I've got a few. Definitely that remote-based team can lead to that, coupled with being busy. That is a recipe for individuality. Yes, Megan, and that's a huge thing, isn't it? There, time pressure to deliver. I absolutely believe in that. That's where the ironic thing with that as well is that's where we need the collaboration. If everyone puts their effort in together collectively, we can get it done. But often when we've got a time pressure, head down, let's do it. And I think that's a really good point that I'm sure many of the people on this call can relate to. Any other reasons as to why we struggle to work collaboratively or we work individually? What blocks us from a team approach? I'll leave I'll leave you some time to type into the chat. And whilst you're typing in, one thing that did came up recently within a session was almost that competitive edge between different departments. No, and I know that sounds ridiculous because they're hopefully in departments. If you put them all together, we're working towards the same goal. But it's that competitive edge of this department's over here, this department's over there, so I'm not willing to share ideas or I'm not willing to work with them as freely because I want to protect our interest. Really good to see some others coming through. Yeah, uh, Nagam, that's such a good point there. Believing that that my way would work better. And Sadie, that goes quite nicely into egos, doesn't it? Egos often get in the way of working with others or putting our hand up and saying, "Hey, I don't know if this is the best idea. What do you think?" Because we're then vulnerable, which stops us from then collaborating. It's easier if I just don't say anything. Yeah, and relationships. Lorraine is a great reason as well. I might not have the rapport, the understanding, the trust. If we look at Lencioni's five levels or five dysfunctions of a team, the bottom level, the most important thing, trust. And if I don't have that, I'm probably not going to be able to collaborate with you. So relationships is certainly a point. Yeah, and want it to be, you've got a high standard, you know what you want to achieve, so therefore I want to work to what I want to work towards what I want to do and my agenda. Often as well, comfort zone is a piece. I think comfort zone is a huge place which plays a part, which I'll get onto next. And maybe not just taking the time to reflect and consider ways of working. I I find, and I'm guilty of this, many places where we go into full foul of this, is we're set a task and we just get to it. We don't just stop and say for 5 minutes, how best should we all tackle this? This is a team task. What are we going to do? How can we overcome this? And I think that's a really good thing to ask ourselves before we pick up the baton, start working, just spend 5 minutes going, right, how are we going to tackle this? So to be able to look at the we rather than the me and a collaborative culture, we first need to look at us and what stops us from getting to where we want to as a team. So with that, and this is a topical point, comfort zone for a learning at work week. Quite often, why we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to learn is because we want to stay in our comfort zone. And this can obviously be replicated with the people around you as well. And in doing so, if we stay in a comfort zone, we stagnate. We don't cross-pollinate ideas. We don't grow. We don't develop. But there is a reason as to why we don't step outside of the comfort zone. There is absolutely a reason as to why we don't. And the clue's in the title. It's comfortable, right? It's nice here, especially if there's other things going in your life where you're outside the comfort zone. Well, this bit, I know what I'm doing. This bit is the thing I enjoy. This bit is where I want to stay. But to do it, what we've got to do is we've got to take a big step. And this step, as we can see, if we look at the graphic on the screen, is into that fear zone. And we've got to have the right mindset to do that because we've got to embrace that extra pressure. We've got to move through uncertainty. We've got to move through what is probably a primitive reaction. If anyone knows the chimp paradox, within this zone, this is where our fight, flight, or freeze mechanism kicks in. And this might be, do you know what? I'm going back into that comfort zone and I'm never gonna collaborate with that individual because I don't know if it's gonna go right or I don't trust them or I don't have the time to be able to do it. So therefore we step back into it. But if we can push through, if we can let our logical brain say, well, there's an opportunity here for us to grow, to develop as an individual, but also as a collective, and there's a better way of working, then we can get through into the learning zone. So we move into the learning zone, and this is where we we within, if anyone's a fan of chimp paradox like me, we use our logical brain, we deal with challenges and problems, we acquire new skills. Yeah, it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, we feel a bit silly, a bit stupid, but this is where real learning can happen. And if we move through there, well, then that's when we grow and that's when we get into that growth zone. And if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is that self-actualization piece. This is where, right, now all of a sudden, I'm bigger and better. I know how to be efficient. I know how to work collaboratively with others. I know how to be vulnerable and use that as an opportunity to grow as opposed to see it as an attack on myself. And so this is a moment of reflection for you. This is learning at work week and this is your personal learning. Think about if you have an example where you haven't left your comfort zone and what the result was. Okay, and then flipping that. Think of examples, and this can be in your personal life, your professional life, wherever you find relevance. Think of an example where you have left your comfort zone and the result. A great example for me is running. I used to hate running. I didn't see the purpose of it. I didn't enjoy it. And all my friends, oh, you gotta go running. You gotta do this, Rich. You should do that. And I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't for me. Then all of a sudden it changed. I don't know what happened, but I was like, right, I'm gonna try this running. And to begin with, I did 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K, and I was like, no, this is all right. And then this is where I start to move outside my comfort zone because I was like, right, I'm gonna do a half marathon. Yeah, see how that was. And I trained for it. It was hard. And then I was like, no, I want to do more. I'm gonna do a marathon. And then I moved through that and I got a training plan. I had a coach and it was really tough, but I enjoyed it. And as a result, I grew. And now I love running. And that is an example for me where I had a bit of a mindset where I don't love it. I don't want to do it. But then actually looking at it, I think it was just my mindset as opposed to not loving running. And it's about finding what worked for me. And I'm sure you can think of heaps of examples for yourself in your personal life, but also professional as well. And if we put it back into the lens of collaboration within teams, is there a point where you could have collaborated, but you just think, nah, it's easier if I just do it myself? Or, nah, I ain't got time for that. Or I don't really know that person, so I'm just gonna keep it to myself. And so thinking about these moments allows us to then grow. And there is obviously hopefully we can see the benefits of doing this, of course. But people say, well, how are you brave and step out of that comfort zone? Like, that sounds like a very steep learning curve, but it doesn't have to be. It can be baby steps, or as we like to call it, if we have a look at the next slide, marginal gains. And why does it matter? Well, if we don't step outside of that comfort zone, we're always going to get what we've always got. So we always stand still. Don't get me wrong, that could be good enough, but it's never going to push on. It's never going to be able to grow, to develop, to learn, to improve, to to make mistakes and learn from them. Right? If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got, as the saying goes. However, marginal gains, if we can push outside of our comfort zone to learn something new or do something different or try and improve just that little bit every day, then these marginal gains can add up. So if we look at the green infographic, just by pushing 1% extra each day, we can see by the end of the year, I'm not a mathematician, but by the end of the year, we are significantly better. And of course, there's going to be some days where we might go backwards. We might do nothing. But if we have the mindset of, can I be better than yesterday? All of a sudden, we're getting our head up. We're looking around for the opportunities to grow. In this instance, we're looking at the opportunity to collaborate, to be vulnerable, to gain feedback, to share ideas, to find ideas. And so if we can challenge ourselves to just a 1% improvement every day, it builds up and it compounds. Furthermore, if we look at it through the lens of a team, this is quite contagious. And we see with famous sports teams and successful sports teams that they will say that people who have this mindset, it oscillates and it generates it within each other. It makes people more hungry as well. And that's what we want to try and aspire to within business as well. So how do we get outside that comfort zone? Well, there's two key areas for me, and this is where I'm going to bring you back in. So we need to have the right mindset. Mentioned that a few times, but also we have to have bounce back ability, also known as resilience. Now, think back to your reflection cards or the questions, the self-assessments that you had on BentoBot. How often do you ask for feedback from your manager, from your peers, your stakeholders, your teams? Because if we genuinely want to improve, we should be doing this a lot more than potentially you are. If you do it, brilliant. Keep doing it. Celebrate that. That's a win. But quite often we don't ask for feedback because scared of what people are going to say. It's going to be vulnerable, and therefore I'm just going to stay in that comfort zone again. I'm not going to learn how to grow and develop and how to improve working with other people. So let's explore mindset, and we have covered this before in a webinar on our free resources page on People Unbox. So if you want to access it, do watch it if you want to have a bit more detail to it. This is going to be one slide on it, and we're going to look at fixed versus growth mindset. So fixed mindset is where we believe, you know what, this is as good as it's going to get. I, I'm this way, can't do anything about it, therefore I'm going to do it. Quite often with me, and I have to challenge this quite regularly. My fixed mindset is I'm not arty, I'm not creative, so I can't do it. So when my daughter comes home and says I've got art homework, my immediate reaction is I'm not helping. What I'm trying to do is move to a growth mindset, which is okay, I'm not great at art, but I do enjoy it, or I can improve. And so growth mindset is that whole ability. Hopefully, many of us are familiar with this, the ability to say, well, I don't know my potential. I don't know how good I am, but I am going to give it a go, and I'm willing to step outside of my comfort zone, into that fear zone, into the learning zone, and thus the growth zone. And to see if we understand growth mindset, a very topical piece when it comes to learning at work week, because if you haven't got this, chances are you're not going to learn much. I want to do a few polls, and I want to see how good you are, team, how good you are at understanding what fixed versus growth mindset is. So on your screens, you will see a series of 10 statements, and I want you to select whether you think it is fixed or growth. Work down them and make sure you click submit once you've done it. And whilst you're doing it, think about if any of these statements talk to you, either the fixed or the growth, because this is about self-reflection as well. So I've put the poll up on the screen for you to participate. 10 statements, so that's a fair few. So I'm going to give you a moment of silence to work through it. And then once we've got that, I'll start seeing if there's a good understanding of the difference between fixed and growth mindset. For those that are watching the recording, it'd be good if I read some of these out for you to consider as well. So when people give me feedback, it feels like criticism. Is that fixed or is it growth? I appreciate it when people give me feedback. It helps me learn, it helps me grow. Asking for advice shows up my lack of knowledge. I want to learn from others' successes. It's not worth trying something new as I might mess it up. Again, do these relate to you? Are these fixed? Are these growth? When I try new things, I'll likely mess it up, but I'll learn and be better next time. Only subject matter experts should be involved in decision making. Statement 8. Everyone should have a voice as their experience adds value. If I can't do something, it's easier to quit. If I can't do something yet, it doesn't mean I won't be able to do it soon. So those are the 10 statements for those that are watching back the recording. I want you to answer those. They fixed, they growth, and equally, where's your opportunity? What are the things that you hear in your head that chimp, if anyone's read the chimp paradox again, says loud and clear? Okay, and what are the ones you can tackle? And equally, where's your strengths? Like, actually, yeah, I'm pretty good at that one when it comes to showing a growth mindset. I'm gonna give another 30 seconds, and then we'll see what the results are and just reflect on some of those statements again and see where your opportunities and strengths lie. Good to see a lot of interaction. Another 10 seconds. So quickly race through if you haven't done all of them and make sure you click submit. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, someone just got an answer in right at the end there. Let's have a look then. Let's have a look at what we've got. Okay, so the majority of you getting it right first and foremost. Yeah, when people give me feedback, it feels like criticism. Absolutely. That is a fixed mindset. 70% of you getting that right. 90% of you getting the growth mindset statement in number two. I appreciate it when people give me feedback. It helps me learn and grow. Absolutely. This one has a 70-30 split. Asking for advice shows up my lack of knowledge. 70% of you getting that right, though. It was fixed. Question four, statement four. I want to learn from others' successes. That is a growth mindset. Yeah, what if someone's succeeding, what are they doing that's making them so successful rather than being, oh, I can't believe they're getting it right. Seeing it as an opportunity to grow. It, it's not worth trying something new as I might mess it up. That is certainly a fixed mindset. That's me with art. When I try new things, I'll likely mess it up, but I'll learn and be better next time. Absolutely, that's growth. That's me where I'm trying to get to with art homework, even if my daughter's words are quite savage when I do have a go. Okay, questions or statement seven. Only subject matter experts should be involved in decision making. Yeah, 84% of you getting that right. That's fixed. Let's bring in other people's viewpoints. Let's see what they've got to share to help with merging perspective and innovating, generating new ideas. Whew. 95% of you getting this one right. Very much a growth mindset statement. Everyone should have a voice that their experience adds values, as we were just saying. Statement nine, if I can't do something, it's easier to quit. Absolutely, that is fixed. 84% of you getting that right. And 84% of you getting it right. If I can't do something yet, it doesn't mean I won't be able to soon. And there is power in the word yet. If you want to watch the webinar around growth mindset, it is on the webinar in our free resources page. Do check it out. Okay, on that then, thanks very much for taking part and well done if you got all of them right. You are a growth mindset expert, but do you apply it? That's the question. Where are your opportunities? Okay, where are your opportunities to show a growth mindset? Because if we've got a growth mindset, as we said, that's part of the puzzle of getting outside the comfort zone and then working towards a more collaborative culture and challenging some of the reasons that stops us. The other thing is about bounce back ability, also known as resilience. Now, we don't know where the word bounce back ability came from, but it was certainly popular for those that like their football with the Reading Football Club when they got promoted from the Championship. And I love the word bounce back ability because I think it sums up what it is. It's about being able to bounce back with setbacks. What happens when you get knocked down? Do you get back up? Not just get back up, but do you just bounce back up to then get back to it? And this is where I want you to reflect. And again, you don't need to share it via the chat. You can just reflect. What does it feel like to fail? When you fail, and you will in life, it's part of life, what impact does it have on you? Do you bounce back or do you stop taking chances? Do you retreat into your comfort zone? Do you stop learning and growing? Do you adopt that fixed mindset? Now, next question is, how do you get back up? How do you get back on the horse, as they say? If you've fallen off, how do you get back on the horse? Well, in fact, yeah, let's put that out into the chat. How do you get back up? What are your tips, your techniques? It'd be great to share some best practices, especially from across the different areas in the world that we've got, to see if there's any other ideas and where we can merge best practice. So, how do you get back up when knocked down, when things don't go to plan, when you fail? Type into the chat, share your coping strategies, your top tips. What are your ideas? How would you help others as well? Anyone got any ideas? If not, you know I will tell you some of mine, but it'd be good to hear if anyone's got some. A league, I like that. A small pep talk. Yeah, and keep trying. You got this, you know. You failed this time. Yeah, I think that's really important. Equally, giving that to other people as well. If you're a parent, that's often what we do. If we're teaching a child how to ride a bike, we don't berate them and say, "I can't believe you got that wrong." You give them that pep talk, you try and get them back on it, and then you try and get them to believe that they can do it next time. And if not next time, next time. And so yeah, using that for ourselves. However, we often our self-talk is pretty critical most of the time. It's not how we would talk to others. So that's a really nice one to share. Sadie, that's lovely. Yeah, I went through Derbyshire yesterday on the train with the sun coming down low. It was beautiful. So yeah, you grab your dog and go for a long walk. Yeah, then back in. Yeah, press the restart button, ready to go again. And I think that active recovery, as I call it, is really important to allow us to then go again. Yeah, change the state, Megan. Dance in the kitchen. Yeah, I love that. Like energy piece. Like let's get going. Some people just say it's as simple as going to make a cup of tea or phoning up a friend and just just letting it all out to then go again. So yeah, really good to hear some ideas. And I think whether it's those examples, reflection really does help to just to learn and grow, but also using that support network. So if we can allow ourselves the opportunity to fail and learn from it, then that means we're stepping outside of the comfort zone with the right mindset. We get back on the horse, and when we fail, and if we fail as a team, then that means we can innovate new ideas. We're not frightened to try things out. We're not frightened to suggest different ways of working. We're okay when we get things wrong as long as we learn from them. We want to grow collectively rather than one or two people. And ultimately, this leads to better overall team results and also feeling better as well. And I'm a massive fan of that Nelson Mandela quote, which was, I never lose, I either win or I learn. And I think this is what bounce back ability is. And this is how we lead to a collaborative culture. Because quite often, what I see, and it's a product of the environment, is where people don't believe that. It's either I win or I'm berated, I'm told off, I'm scorned, either by myself or by the team around me. And so this is where we need to make sure if we are going to be truly collaborative, we need to have that level of trust, but we need to have psychological safety. Now, again, there's a webinar on psychological safety on our free resources. So, a big part of being able to bounce back and a big part of having a growth mindset is the surroundings that we have. And psychological safety is a massive part of this. So, we want to create a safe space for people to actually try things and fail. So, for those that haven't come across psychological safety, it's the belief that you will not be punished, humiliated, made to feel embarrassed for speaking up with ideas, questions, or admitting concerns or mistakes. And when we feel safe, that's when we feel like we belong. We belong as part of the team. So we can try new things. We can suggest ideas. We can live quite close to the edge. We are going to sometimes get it wrong, but we don't feel like that is going to be a moment where we're going to be scorned, dragged across the coals. It's a moment where we can then learn and move forward as a group. And this is all done without being judged or made to feel bad in front of others. And if we've got this safety, it allows us as a group, if we're looking at collaboration, to be brave and challenge the norm and push us on to bigger and better things. And when we're made to be fearful of those around us, we don't take the chances. We don't collaborate. We shut up shop and we go into siloed ways of working, either individually or departments or groups, whatever that be. And there's heaps of studies around why this matters within a place of work. We can see that Google did a study and they found that the key performing indicators for these high performing teams was how safe they felt between one another. So that is what separated the the high functioning ones versus the average performance ones. So this is something we need to make sure we have in place to be able to be high performing and have true collaboration. Okay, with that, let's now, with the final time we've got, share and hopefully be open, have a growth mindset to receiving best practices. And this is where I really want you one more time to populate the chat with some ideas. And there is two questions that I'm going to ask. The first question, and this is very much based on the me, individual working, versus the we. true collaboration, and effective collaboration. So I'm going to start on the individual working. What behaviors do you feel you display or you see in others that promotes individual working? Because it's far easier to fight an enemy that we can see. And whilst individual working might be effective for some aspects, actually is it to the detriment of the team working? And is there an opportunity with that growth mindset on, with stepping outside of the comfort where we should be working more effectively as a group? So what are the things or behaviors that people or yourself display when it comes to promoting individual working? Now, put that into the chat. I think for me, when it comes to individual working, I am, for those that know me, I am fairly competitive. And that's something I'm working on, I'm aware of, but old habits die hard, as they say. So I wanna be the best. I want to do the best, and therefore I do it on my own because I know what the standard is, and I know how to get there. That is very much promoting individual working. How I change that, if we look towards teamwork, is actually stronger, stronger together as opposed to one. Strengths in the pack, as they say. And it's about leaning on people to get it out. So think about behaviors that you're displaying that promotes individual working. What's stopping you from doing it? Also, is there a physical reason which is stopping you? Remote working. It's great. It is great. I think it's opened up a heap of opportunity for people. It's allowed for flexible working. We're seeing much more diversity within workforces, which is great. The downside is if we're not careful with it, it disconnects. It means I'll just get on with all I need to do. I won't reach out, I won't connect, and therefore I won't collaborate as effectively as I can. So, with that, then we need to think about ways that people are doing it, and we're going to share some top tips. And I've got some top tips coming up. Nagam, yeah, not sharing the full info and take the initiative to finish the task. Yeah, being a perfectionist is a really good reason. And again, those trust issues as well. And that might have come from past experience with that individual or past experience within the organization you work with, past experience from a former employee that you work with, or whatever it be. So being aware of these, let us tackle them. So this is best practice sharing time. It's learning at work week. Help others to learn by sharing an idea. What things do you do that promotes teamwork within your group? And it could be something that you believe is small or insignificant. It could be we have a we have a coffee and a chat on a Monday via Teams just to catch up. But that helps if we go back to Lorraine's point from beforehand. If we don't know the person, how are we possibly going to collaborate with them? That creates a rapport, creates a connection that then means we can get down to business and we can work and we can have each other's back. So that could be an example of what we're doing. At People Unbox, one thing that we think is really important to promote collaboration is we have what we call a People Unbox passport. So everyone who joins, they have to complete a passport which has information on like, preferred ways of working, how they like to receive feedback, who they are outside of work, what's important to them, their values, their motivators, their breakdown in terms of communication style. So things like profiling, if you've ever done insights, we've got our own profiles unboxed. So just all of that allows us to then understand the individual so then we can better collaborate. And we also talk through this. Oh, look at this team. We've got loads coming through. I'm going to read them out so we can understand them for those that are watching back because you won't be able to see the chat. Yeah. Lorraine saying this is to do with individual working. Lorraine saying leaving things to last minute, thinking I know better, working on both of these. Yes, those two things, leaving it till last minute so you don't have the opportunity to reach out. But equally, yeah, I know best. I'm going to do it as opposed to bringing people in. And that also, as a manager, that's quite exhausting. I can relate to it. it means that you're going to be doing all the tasks and you're not upskilling, and it's frustrating for the people around you as well if they want to improve and grow. So yeah, well done, Lorraine, for admitting that you're working on those. Yes, one thing, and that goes to the flip side now, Gavin, isn't it? Delegation. Yeah, if you can effectively delegate, if you can really empower your staff around you with delegation, if you can give them all the autonomy to do that, definitely do it. I do monthly incentives. Teamwork is massive when an early finish Friday is at stake. Yeah, so yeah, make it fun. Make it fun. Look, and more often than not, if you look at your company values, I guarantee that in there somewhere will be promote teamwork. So yeah, make it fun, bring it to life, bring those values and behaviors to life. Megan's saying that we have regular team meetings. Yeah, and then yeah, considering other skills and knowledge when we have a new child. Yeah, tap into people's strengths, and also where they want to upskill. This then again is an initiative to create that collaborative culture. Love that. Ellie saying around the regular meetings as well. And yeah, listening to feedback and giving credit, yeah, recognition and valuing them is a huge part of creating collaboration. I'm going to do more of the things that you like me doing if you tell me if it's good in the first place. And recognition, let's be clear, recognition, we've done a webinar on feedback as well for those that are interested. Recognition isn't just great job. Recognition is telling them why it's a great job, the impact that it had rather than great job. It's the impact it had. So that's a really good point to have as well. Lorraine chipping in with the team, yeah, being visible in different offices, functions, yeah. And if you're remotely based, showing up to potentially remote based meetings, reaching out to people to have a one-to-one, how's it's going chat. Yeah, joining the team, inviting input when shaping and sharing new ideas. I and then this is it, creating the right environment for people to share. If someone's quiet, no worries. Let's have some breakouts and then let's get them back into the room and then getting them to share perspective, having that safe space to contribute. Yes, really good answers there. And I think other things we can do is celebrate team wins rather than individual wins as well. When we do it collectively, what have we done together to achieve this rather than absolutely call out what people, the components, but the fact that it was a collective effort as to why we achieved what we were doing. And I think quite a lot of this boils down to time. So if we allow the time, that certainly encourages a collaborative approach. Here's some top tips before we go into the Q&A teams. So first and foremost, open communication. Encourage the team members to share ideas, to give feedback, to share concerns. And this helps us to build trust and ensures that everyone is on the same page. That obviously needs trust and it needs psychological safety, going back to the previous point. Try and adopt active listening. I'm sure, like me, you have a lot going on and it's quite easy to be distracted. But when someone is opening up and is trying to collaborate, focus on them, focus on what they're saying, ask questions, be interested, show empathy, help them feel valued and help them feel understood, and that actually it is worthwhile for them to collaborate with you. Psychological safety, we have touched on. Clear goals and roles. If everyone knows their part they're playing within the team, they're going to collaborate a lot more effectively. Whereas if we don't, that's going to cause confusion and not everyone's going to know what's expected of them. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. And it's frustrating for everyone involved. Just taking that 5 minutes to work out who's doing what and where we're going to support each other could be the difference. Making sure we trust each other. We said about that, but hold each other to account and taking accountability as well. Doing what I say I'm going to do and going above and beyond and recognizing that too. Okay. Healthy conflict. If we go back to Lencioni's five dysfunctions, the next level after trust. Really good audio if you want to listen to it, team, actually. Patrick Lencioni, five dysfunctions of a team. The first level is lack of trust. The next one is the the inability to deal with conflict. But healthy conflict, where good things can come out of it, that is true collaboration, where we can debate rather than shout at one another. How do you do that? By addressing disagreements respectfully and solution focused, going hard on the issue, soft on the person, and being focused on getting something done as opposed to going against each other, engaging the logical brain rather than the human brain. Again, we've done heaps on conflict as well. Flexibility and adaptability, being open to change. It's great if everyone's got ideas, but if we're not open to it, then people are going to stop sharing. People are going to stop collaborating. They're going to close down. So being open to change and willing to adjust plans as needed, and this can help teams navigate challenges and seize new opportunities. And then on that, recognizing when it does work. So reflecting and saying, hey, because you suggested this, this is what happened. So recognizing, we already said about the power of that, and celebrating team members' contributions as well as the overall success of the team. That can boost morale and motivation to do it again. With that, we've come to the end of the content, and so a few things for you to consider. Take a moment here and after the session, if you can, to embed some of the key learns. To get better, some of the key things from that self-assessment, request some 360 feedback, not just from your manager, but from the people you potentially manage or work with, stakeholders, to see where your opportunities are when it comes to collaborating with them. And a good question to ask is the low-hanging fruit is how best do I work with you? If we want to work together, how best do I work with you? And see where that conversation goes. We looked about the importance of growth mindset. This allows us to step outside of our comfort zone and learn. And if we're going to do that, that's going to allow us to come over some of those barriers we explored beforehand. Psychological safety, can't bang this drum enough. We need to make sure we've got psychological safety to be able to create a collaborative team. If not, we're not going to be able to share ideas, admit mistakes, have healthy conflict. And within that as well, affording ourselves the luxury and being kind to ourselves to be able to bounce back that resilience piece, and allowing the team to do that as well when we do fall down. What happens? Well, hopefully we help each other back up and we learn from it and we move forward. Share best practice with your team. Maybe sit down. Maybe after this session, what you can do is sit down with your team and say, hey, how do we collaborate better? I want to get those marginal gains. I want to be better than we were last week, last month, last year, and then push forward on that. And then finally, celebrate team successes. I feel what we do is we finish a task and then we go, what's next? What's next? We never stop and just say, look, let's just look at what we just done there and celebrate what worked well and learn from the points where we can improve. And that will lead to a more collaborative culture. With that, we've finished the content. We've got a few moments. I'll be really interested to see if anyone's got any questions that I can help with, any points that they'd like to bring up before we close down the webinar. So I'll step off the gas. I'll leave a bit of silence if you want to compose any questions, and I'll keep an eye on the chat, and I will read them out for those that are watching back the webinar as well. Over to you, team, to see if you have any questions or observations before we finish. Megan, how long do you have? So Megan's put into the chat, interested in your thoughts on how to develop trust in a team. I believe to gain trust, if you look at Lencioni's, the book is really helpful. So I thoroughly recommend, if you haven't already, listen or read the book. It's quite a low-hanging fruit in terms of listening. I think it's about 5 hours as opposed to some of those 10, 15-hour books. In there's lots of good tips on how to build trust. And essentially, what it points towards is getting to know the individual on a personal level, not on a professional one. That helps, knowing what their skills, what their opportunities are, but more on a personal level. So then I know who you are and I know how to tap into that. So empathy is a key point there. That's a really good starting point. Get to know people. And I feel what we often fall foul of is when we have a one-to-one meeting with people, we just get straight into business. What's the latest with this? What's the latest with that? As opposed to, how you doing? What's the latest with the family? How was your holiday? These things can really help. Yeah, Claire, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. It's great to see you, Lorraine. Yeah, lots to ponder. I'm glad we have. That's the idea, isn't it, Sadie? Good. I'm glad you got things to think about, and try and think about one thing, team, that you can take away from today's session to action to help improve. Remember those marginal gains. If anyone's else got any questions, feel free to ask them and stay on board. More than happy. If not, two things. There's two more QR codes on there. So first off, follow us. If you're interested in more of these three webinars, we often post it on our social. So if you're not already part of our social following, follow that. That's on the right hand side. And if you would be so kind to leave some feedback, is this useful? Was this what you wanted? Was there something missing? Is there an idea for the next free webinar? Follow the feedback link on the left hand side of the slide and put it in there. Team, thanks for joining. Good luck with your commitments. Good luck with your actions. And hopefully, by coming on today, you've got a little bit of a better idea of how to create a collaborative culture. Until the next one, take care of yourself. Goodbye. Thanks, everyone. Take care now.